right now I'm traveling with no fixed plans, no itinerary, no mapped out toilets, no exit strategy, just going. 2 years ago, I couldn't have walked 20 minutes from my house without knowing where the next bathroom is. Today, I want to talk about what happened in between because I feel like not enough people talk about it. And I really wish someone had when I was going through the midst of it.
Welcome to Grow with the Flow. This is your space for open, honest, and real conversations about life. We dive into personal growth, meaningful connections, and embracing your truth. So, if you're looking for inspiration, a fresh perspective, or just a space to connect, you're in the right place. Let's grow with the flow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Grow with the Flow. Today, I want to have a little moment of rewinding where I've came from with my toilet anxiety and where I am today and what has changed. Because I talked about it on this podcast before, this growth paradox, right? We're often so focused on where we want to go down the line, and sometimes we forget where we are and where we came from. And I recently had one of those moments where I had to take a step back and actually appreciate where I came from, because 2 years ago, my struggle with anxiety was very different from where it is today. So let me share again how this was like. I was actually like when I was going through it. Usually, before I would leave the house, I would map things out, right? I would try to understand, where am I going? Are there public bathrooms? If I wouldn't go to a venue or so where I knew that they had bathrooms, and I would make sure that I constantly had an exit plan, right? I would even go as far as I was on the way somewhere, I would look for bushes or nature and just create those worst case scenarios to make sure I always have an exit strategy. And that came at a big social cost. As you can imagine, I was avoiding a lot of things when I didn't feel like I was comfortable in that situation. I remember when I was first traveling through Southeast Asia, I really wanted to do a day trip to swim with manta rays. But it didn't go. I wasn't feeling well. The anxiety, the idea of going on a boat, possibly without a bathroom, was stressing me so much that I just didn't do it. And this is just one example of many, many, many things I didn't do because of my anxiety. I would often make excuses, and I think that it also impacted my relationships heavily. I often wasn't present when I was people. I would often talk to someone, but I would look over their shoulder and have the bathroom in my view. So the struggle, the disconnection with myself and with the people around me triggered a lot of shame. The topic itself, when it comes to toilet habits, etc., is already something that is not often talked about in society. So naturally there was shame with it, and there was even more shame because it had such a tight grip on me. And in the beginning, the most difficult thing was that I wasn't even sure what it was that I was going through. I was just anxious, I was just stressed, I was just dealing with all of it all the time. And the turning point for me came, in a big panic attack I had in New York when I was traveling there with my mom. When I was sitting there one day, and this anxiety had such a tight grip on me, and I had this big anxiety attack and was rushing to find a bathroom that I didn't even need afterwards. I asked myself, could that really be it? Is it really possible that this anxiety has such a tight grip on my life and controls it in so many ways? And I think that's the moment when I realized that I need to do something. I was talking very openly with my mother about it during that trip. And I think that's when it really started for me, when I started sharing very openly, very transparently, what my journey with that anxiety looked like. I didn't want to let the shame of it keep on controlling me. So what I did was eventually start researching. I think that was my first step. I remember I had another moment in the UK where I had a big anxiety attack when I was stuck in traffic in a taxi, and I just rushed out of the taxi to find a bathroom, and afterwards decided to walk home to take some time, and that's when I started researching what I was going through, my symptoms essentially. And I realized that I'm not alone in this. There's just something that people have experienced before and that other people have researched, and topics like the vagus nerve and the nervous system and all of these kind of words and concepts suddenly popped up for me. And that's when I decided to try new things without knowing if they would work. But I thought, let me just try something, right? So there's a few things that I think actually helped. And I'm gonna go through them basically one by one in a minute, to maybe give you an idea, an inspiration to try something if you're going through something similar. Because the truth is, there wasn't one thing. Today I'm in a position where I feel much more in control and in charge of my life and on top of my anxiety, to the point where I often say that I don't even suffer from the anxiety any longer. But there wasn't one thing that fixed it. I think there was about 14 things that, just stacked on top of each other and in coordination with each other probably have done the trick for me. But don't let this discourage you, because you can group those quite easily, right? Because what helped me was to focus on the mind first, then the body, and then life and the deep stuff afterwards. Because it's quite a complex deal, right? Dealing with your own mental health. And I would lie if I would say that it wasn't. One of the hardest things I had to go through in life. Especially when I exposed myself to that anxiety. But there's also an incredible pleasure and joy afterwards. And there's really a huge reward. And there were a lot of surprises along the way as well. So now, after I've tried all of these things, I'm in a position where I travel. I've been living in Southeast Asia for a few months now, traveling between Sri Lanka, Bali, and Vietnam. And things that would have been so difficult in the past, where I made sure that I always had a plan, always had a structure, now I'm quite flexible. I'm quite free and spontaneous, and I suddenly have this opportunity to be, making decisions on the fly without worrying, like, ooh, but what happened if there isn't or is a bathroom? And it really felt like I've been getting freedom back. But that isn't because it's the absence of the anxiety. It's really because I have a different relationship with it now. So let me go into those little things that I've been doing that help me master this anxiety and build this different relationship with it. The first thing is talk about it. Talking with friends and family, and eventually, in the context of this podcast, was a big, big step to remove the stigma from it. And it has also opened up some incredible conversations. As I started sharing my own journey with my anxiety, other friends would open up and share their stories with their anxiety. And knowing that you're not alone in this is a huge support network that is just waiting to be built around you. The second thing I did is research it. I just mentioned it. I started learning about my nervous system, about the vagus nerve, and that's something that has helped tremendously. Then I started to do some mindset work, let's say, which meant I was trying to reframe those anxiety signals. So instead of looking at it from the point of view where it was a threat, I started to recognize that my nervous system is trying to tell me something, right? So the anxiety changed from being something that was the danger and the problem to the symptom and an indicator. It allowed me to build a relationship with my body where I learned to listen because something clearly was going on. Then, when I was traveling in Thailand, there was a vagus nerve workshop. Obviously, through my research, I've now learned about the vagus nerve. So naturally, I was very drawn to that. So I joined the workshop, and as it turned out, the facilitator was experienced in acupuncture. So afterwards, we started talking. He mentioned that he's provided therapy to multiple clients with anxiety through acupuncture and has witnessed incredible results. So I was still around Thailand for a while, so I decided that I will join him. And I did a few workshops, and it really worked wonders for me. I felt great afterwards, and I haven't experienced anxiety like I used to. So it definitely has had an impact on me. I also started breathwork, connecting with my own breath and recognizing how the breath can be used to regulate your nervous system, to relax, calm down, has been an incredible tool on this journey. I've learned it in my yoga teacher training as part of pranayama, but I've also started diving into specific breathwork courses that has really shown incredible benefits that you can generate with your own breath by yourself. And that was probably one of the key indicators or the key tools to help me on this journey, which was getting into the body, right? Because feeling present in your body by dancing, doing yoga, going to the gym has allowed me to be just in my body. And the moment I'm in my body, I'm out of my mind. I feel like the moment you're busy working out or moving your body, you can't experience anxiety. So that was the single most impactful decision I made in my life, to be more active in my body. The eighth thing that I did was make some lifestyle changes. I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking alcohol, and I looked at my diet, making sure that I don't have croissants, pain au chocolat, cakes, and sugars as often, and have a more healthy relationship with my diet and my eating habits. The next thing I did was having more consistent health checks. I used to be incredibly anxious about the health, right? The idea of thinking maybe there's actually something wrong that is causing the anxiety or the stomach issues physiologically made me really worried. So eventually I realized, okay, I want to do some health checks here. So I started doing a colonoscopy and meeting with doctors and sharing this with medical experts to understand if anything is going on with my body, because if there was, I could treat it, right? Then I started journaling and reflecting with myself, because this would allow me to track my patterns and often just like recognize what's going on. Sometimes it's really healthy to speak things out loud or write them down so you can read them and see them, because if you just let everything just going on in your mind, it's, well, as anxiety does, it goes into the craziest realms. So that's something that really helped. And from there, I could introduce some core shifts. The first was building trust with my body, because I was now slowly learning the difference between urgency and anxiety. And it took a long time, but it happened. Eventually, I recognized that the anxiety was a symptom for something that was going on in my life, like lifestyle choices, stress in my job or relationship, pressure I would put on myself. And the moment I recognized that, I would be able to trust my body more and listen to it. Another thing in terms of a core shift was exposure, exposing myself to the things that would trigger the anxiety in the first place. Traveling to Bali was a big part of this exposure therapy, if you want, because initially I thought about Bali as this place where, yeah, culture, food, and everything is so different. A lot of people that did travel to Bali talked about Bali belly, and I thought, well, that's a reason to be anxious about not finding a bathroom when you have these stomach issues. So putting myself in those situations where I felt like, okay, you know, I feel a huge anxiety here, but I realized, well, I can just go to Bali and do it anxiously, you know? You realize it doesn't matter if I'm anxious at home. You can be anxious anywhere in the world. So that was something that allowed me to step out of this. Eventually, what also happened is by talking about it, by opening yourself up to it, by connecting with different communities in the yoga, breathwork, maybe through your workouts, your gym, your dancing, connecting with communities and finding these communities, you're able to now share your story, maybe hear other people talk about it, and recognize that there's lived experiences all around you. And if someone else went through that, so can you. And another big part that I'm constantly practicing today is just sitting with uncertainty. You can't always control life around you. Regardless of how much work you've put in before and how far you've come, your journey continues. And sometimes things will be out of your control. So instead of holding on too much, you can change your relationship with that uncertainty and invite it as a teacher if you want. So, yeah, as we're coming to a close of this episode, I invite you to reflect on your own journey with anxiety or your own ill mental health. Because we all have a journey and we all have our experiences. And I wonder if this has been part of your story too, this struggle. I'd genuinely love to know. So feel free to reach out, reply in a comment, or send a private message, because I'd love to hear from you. I think the most beautiful thing is to remind yourself that you don't have to have it figured out. Just starting to talk about it is already enough. Maybe with myself, maybe with a friend or your family. And with that in mind, I invite you to follow your intuition, do everything with love, and just see where it takes you. Bye.